Welcome to the first episode of the No Authority podcast. This is your host, Hani, host, Eric, and we're joined today with a guest, Sam. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
Would you like to just talk a little about yourself, third grade style? Say what you do.
Fun fact about myself, okay. Well, I'm Samantha, living in The Hague, actually not in Amsterdam, so just visiting everyone for a little bit. And I'm half Peruvian. Grew up in Botswana, born and raised, and now I'm just vibing in the Netherlands. And yeah.
Okay.
That's about it.
It's quite similar to what we're doing as well.
Yeah.
How are you, Eric? What have you been up to?
Pretty good. Just got done with celebrating Christmas.
Okay.
Nice.
Got together with a couple of friends.
With a nice night.
Pretty good dinner. Hani came through with the meals.
The chef of the night.
Thanks,
truly
guys.
pulled
What
through.
was
I'll
that
take it.
rice dish you made?
Oh, it was Uzi.
Nice.
It's not the. It's I don't know. Like we make it back home. It's a normal we make it once a week at my home
In Qatar?
in Qatar. Yeah.
So
But
it's
I
like
think it's a Levantian kind of dish. Yeah. It's like
What is that?
What's Levantian?
Yeah.
the Levant. I don't know. I think it's a word I just made up, but I'm sure I read it somewhere before.
Nice.
But it's basically the Levant. So like Syria, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, that kind of thing. You know.
Do y'all fuck with Christmas though? Like,
I fuck with Christmas, honestly.
as in
Nice.
like, do you celebrate it?
I don't celebrate it as in like celebrate it for being Christmas. I just like having see people that you haven't seen in a minute over, Just join people that it joins people. You have food, which always plays a good role in how much I like things.
Oh, nice. It also brings people together.
It does.
It
That's
brings
what it
people
is.
together.
Also gifts. I like giving gifts. I like receiving gifts.
But don't you think that Christmas is kind of just one of those excuses? Like we all just do it because we have
Yeah.
to, but really
Very true.
we should just do these things more often. We should just get together, with people for, just be grateful. Because the whole meaning of the holiday is it not, family, spend time.
Yeah.
And if you look at the theme of all those Christmas movies and everything, everyone's like, family's what's important at the end, or choosing your family or the friends and just being grateful in that moment. But shouldn't we just practice that more often,
Yeah, very true. It's that one time in the year that only feels like it's winter. But I do agree with
Well,
what
it's
you
winter
said.
for some people.
Well,
For me, it
true.
was never winter. It was always summer, peak heat, everything.
True.
And
true.
so,
Never had that.
Do you celebrate Christmas?
I don't celebrate Christmas religiously now,
mm,
but hedonistically,
Okay.
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 I like presents.
Yeah.
I like
gatherings.
gatherings, drinking wine with
Very
my
nice.
friends on Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
wasting my day away watching
Not
Korean
feeling bad
movies. No,
about
not
eating a pig,
eating a pig or eating like a pig.
Could
Or
be
both. But no, growing up, I celebrated both Christmas and Ramadan in my household.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we always have
mainly Ramadan.
there was always a tree, but never really we
Yeah.
never had tons of presents.
Mm.
Not till I moved to America and then start
Yeah.
actually being in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
But I think, for example, personally, growing up, as a kid, up until a certain age, yeah, it was all about the presents. But then as I got older, or maybe as, my mom realized, I need to find, a sense of community in Botswana, because it was just her and I celebrating Christmas. So she would go to, another family's house, and we'd just have, a big dinner together. And her and her friend, well, my mom wouldn't get drunk, but her friends would get drunk. And then you
Yeah.
open, one or two gifts, and just, it becomes more about being with people.
I like that. I don't know. I feel
It's nice.
Yeah. the inner child shines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's also an expression of love. I mean, it's a love language as well, giving and receiving gifts.
100%. Yeah.
So- Yeah, quite nice.
And on holidays, I'm never gonna bash a holiday. No matter what. If it's a holiday. It's a holiday. I'll take it.
I bash some.
Okay, if any of you guys are out there celebrating Thanksgiving for the main reasons that the pilgrims
Came and
came and took the land,
then
just
that's a bit of a...
do not.
Yeah. Let's think
Don't
about
do
that
that.
critically now.
Yeah.
Before we get any further, actually, should we plug the socials?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So before you guys can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, use Pocket Cast.
Pocket Cast as well. If you use that, it's on there wherever
Wow.
you go. Yeah.
And we're on Insta at the No Authority Pod, and we're on Twitter.
Check the Twitter out.
Check the Twitter out. We're gonna try to like make it funny.
Yeah.
Make it funny.
At
Nice.
No Authority Podcast.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know. We're trying to be relatable here. Trying to be affable. So gotta do what we gotta do. You know.
Trying to reach the demographic.
What is our demographic?
That's a good
Everyone.
question. It's whoever's out there that
Listen,
actually finds
who wants
interest.
to-
Exactly.
who wants to listen
That's
to
the
it?
demographic.
If you listen and you fuck with it,
Vibe. Just
Yeah.
come along for the vibes.
it's all you. Okay. Do you guys want to talk about, since we were talking about Christmas, I feel like a good topic to discuss would be spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think that's a pretty nice. The three of us, I feel like we come from
Very interesting.
very interesting spiritual beliefs
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Because we clash and also come together on certain things and
Very
just have
true.
very different upbringings as well, which
Very
plays a
true.
role
Yeah.
and gives us certain opinions. It's quite nice
And
to
how
discuss
even
them.
after that, we find that we have very common ways of thinking about something.
Yeah,
You know,
very true.
no matter where you come from, what you taught, what you speak growing up, it's the same conclusions that I feel like if you really sit down and think about it,
Yeah,
that
it's
a lot
all-
of people would come to.
A lot of it's just trying to be a good person on your way
Yeah.
in this world. And
Yeah.
of course, there's other ways to interpret that message and what it means to be a good person, but the overall message is that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
100%.
religion and spirituality and all that is purely just interpretation and how it applies to you. And so yeah.
It's a very interesting topic to talk about. It's interesting to see what it means to different people as well.
Mm.
Like, it doesn't only mean one thing. It could be spiritual, and even within that, find that people can like disagree with each other. You know, it's a very interesting topic to talk about with other people, especially with like people from very, very different people that you wouldn't usually talk about this with. It means something to everyone. I feel like even if they say they're not spiritual, I feel like to some point everybody is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that you believe in a higher power. It's just also you could believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And like, that is a bigger aspect of spirituality in my opinion. Like if you, think about it, religions and following, gods or God, or whoever you're following,
Yeah.
in the end it's to help you believe that, you can do whatever it is or get through a certain issue that you're facing. It's just about believing that you're going to be able to get through whatever it is, or you're going to be able to get whatever it is that you're hoping for and all that. So, yeah.
Really comes from within.
Mm.
It really does.
It's always very personal.
Yeah.
So for someone who isn't as spiritual as I am,
Yeah.
how do I approach being more spiritual?
Well, I can say that as someone who was not spiritual, had a actually very interesting relationship with religion, because I knew my dad was atheist. My mom grew up Catholic, but she was kind of dabbling into spirituality. But then, as a child being a little bit rebellious, I was like, no, what's the point? I didn't see it. And only till recently I started believing way more and being like, wow, actually, perhaps this can, help me, because I think the first way to go about it is to just read about it a little bit, or maybe just like see what maybe you like, or like what applies to you. For example, tarot, you can try and read tarot or get your tarot read and see if, hey, maybe if this resonates, and then you sit back and think, okay, well, a lot of it's about intuition. And so a good way to get back to like understand it or get into it is to kind of look at within yourself and your issues and look at, okay, well, what may be a good coping mechanism or something that'll help me understand this more. Tarot is, for example, like I said again, is an act of that. You ask a question, you receive an answer, and if it applies to you, then it applies to you. Sometimes it says something you don't want to hear, but you sit back and think, okay, now, should I apply this? How can I apply this? And whatever. And that's really, I think, in my opinion, one of the good ways to start, just to approach it. And you don't have to take it as, the spiritual aspect, but you can just use it as a tool. It's something that can help you get through something or understand yourself or your issues way better. That's what I think.
I think with spirituality, I have quite a different definition than Sam's.
Mm.
With myself, it's more like the way I could describe it to you is maybe a way you could start is I feel like my spirituality isn't really in religion or in believing anything that would require a lot of like just faith and not applying your rational thinking to it.
Of course.
To me, with spirituality, it's more about your relationship with yourself. Like, how do you treat yourself? What do you believe in that might not, like, even now that you can't apply rational thinking to? Because I do agree that if I was to think in a way, oh yeah, let me apply my logic to this, you're not really gonna get anywhere because the whole point of that stuff is not to apply logic to it. It's something that we don't understand. The way I see it is work on yourself first. Make
Yeah.
sure that you understand yourself and your behavior when it comes to like different situations and how you would react under different pressures. Make sure you work on and you put effort in how you talk and live with yourself, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
How you carry yourself in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
And I think that that's a very good definition as well of spirituality. Like, for example, I see it now more as a spiritual thing, but at the beginning I was like, oh well, it can be a tool, it can be this, but my mom was always telling me like, these are the keys to life, you can do this, you can change your reality, you can shift everything. At first I was like, please, like what can that what can that really do? But then once you get into it and then you actually kind of reap what you sow, then you start thinking, oh damn, okay, maybe there is something else a little bit there that I can't just debate logically. Some coincidences happen, like, and I know you can do the science behind it, what the probability of a coincidence and whatever, but please, am I going to do that with every situation I face in life? No, I'm just going to have to accept that some of it's just like, wow, that's a pretty interesting turn of events, that can happen so quickly or so whatever, and how can I explain that? I don't know. And so I just say, well, I guess I'm going to have to say it's something else.
I wouldn't really apply that way of thinking, but
no, but I mean, like, it's something that you can't apply rational like
I get that,
rationality to it. When some things happen, like, I'm just like, well, I can't apply any rational thinking to this. It's just some things just happen, and it's just like, okay, well, I'll put a bit of faith into that, and that's what I think it is essentially.
So
partially
for me, I grew up because like I said, I grew up with two different religions, and I basically grew out of it.
Yeah.
Like all the faith, all the like belief, and it's just, but I still just accept things. Like you said, like like if some things happen and I can't find reason, of
could
course.
be something, yeah.
But even though I accept those, does that translate to me being a spiritual person, or is it like something that I have to put a little bit meaning behind it to see like
I don't think so. I think with spirituality, even now that you ask how can I be more spiritual, it doesn't have to mean that you're not spiritual at the moment.
Yeah.
You might think you're not spiritual, but like when you think about it, you can be surprised at what spiritual things can come out of your brain. You know what I mean?
I think you can also just look at it as just, it's up to you how you decide to see things. You as a person, you decide if you're going to have, faith or believe in something. You create your reality. That's another big part of spirituality, and just in a sense of being, you choose how you react to things. Right. You choose how you're going to interpret things. Like, we do have a lot of control over certain things. If we change some perspective, obviously some things can make things harder, but can also just choose to believe or choose not to believe, or like, some people believe in Christianity, some people believe in Islam, believe in whatever else, Buddhism, spirituality, whatever. It's just about what you think sounds right to you, and you just feel, I feel like I can vibe with this.
Could be literally anything.
It can be just you vibing with yourself and finding, growth within yourself, and just trying to access your higher form of self all the time, your higher being, or just the best version of yourself. It can be purely that, and that can in itself can be spiritual. Just you striving to be a better person every day, that you go about, trying to fix your traumas and also not inflict any on other people, or just trying to fix yourself for yourself. That can also be very spiritual.
Honestly, I think one thing that could really make that jump for anyone is just focusing on being more grateful.
Yes.
Every day.
That is
Just
something
be
so
more
important.
be more grateful, you know, just look around you and
Have gratitude that
Have
you are
gr-
here
exactly.
experiencing this in this moment, even though the moment that, even when you can be in like the truly some of the worst spots of your life,
yeah.
even maybe, yeah, in that moment you can't find a moment to be grateful, and that's fine. Allow yourself to feel everything that you're feeling. But later on, eventually you have to accept it as what it is and just say, well, but at least I'm grateful for whatever other aspect you have going on in your
There's always
life.
something to be grateful
There's
for.
always a
is
little
true.
something, and
Yeah.
it's hard to start being grateful, I'll admit. Like, it's so easy to just find yourself down and just be like, well, everything is horrible. But once you get into that mindset of like, well, everything is horrible, like this goes wrong, that goes wrong, and just you start seeing more negatively, then
100%.
you're going to choose more options or choose more things in your life that just might impact you negatively because you already believe, well, things are going to be bad regardless. When you practice being grateful and just practice gratitude, you realize, oh, well, things can look up, you know. I'm still this person having this experience and I'm going to learn from it.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be grateful for this experience as well, because what did it do? It taught you something. You came out of it stronger. You learned something about yourself. Or maybe, you know, like you lost a person that taught you a lot, or that moment just in general, just whatever it is, teaches you something in that moment, and you decide to go forward with it however you want.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Learning to look at it as just part of life. Everything is just part of life.
It's part of your experience here.
Exactly.
It's part of your story and your own divine timing, your own divine personal journey.
Yeah.
It's just part of you and whatever you're going to do while you have time here, because after this, the biggest debate is what happens afterwards, and no one can come to an agreement. So
yeah, what do you think happens afterwards?
That depends.
Just who knows. You have a short life though. Do you want to indulge a little bit?
No, it's also because we're not going to be able to get the answers of, you know, those things that we can't understand. And a big part of life is just having to accept you're not always going to have the answer. This applies to so many different aspects of just being as well. Like, you can have an issue with someone and something happens and for some reason you don't talk to them for a long time, but you still, you know, beat yourself up about certain questions that you have and then answers that you didn't get from this person, but for some reason maybe you can't get them, whatever reason it be. The person is no longer there, or simply you have no way of reaching out, or whatever the reason is. And the biggest thing that you can do, like, to give yourself peace from that, is just to have to face the reality and accept you're not going to get these answers. And so how do people find comfort in sometimes not finding the answer? Spirituality can help, you know. That's what I think. You know, it can help you find comfort in just finding a way to accept the fact that this is just accepting things, basically. Yeah,
I like that.
That's what I think. It can be broken down. You can break down spirituality in so many different ways, purely in the way that you narrate it, and you narrate what it is and what the core fundamentals are. Like, I can talk about it in a very pragmatic way and just about applying it to your life. And then it sounds pretty decent, right? Like, it sounds like, oh, well, this is something interesting to follow. But I can also break it down and be like, you know, it's about you trying to reach your higher self, your divine energy, and talk about more like the energy part of it and other things that, you know, like astral projection and stuff like that. I can talk about it like that because there's just so many different ways to tell the story of what it is and just make it apply to other people. And I think that's a beautiful thing as well that you can do with it.
100%.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you study again?
I study political science, but like the specialization is international relations and organizations. It's actually like a special course because normally you can only do international relations or political science, not really both. Hard as hell, I'll admit. Well, to me. But it's relevant to a lot of things happening today. And it's actually pretty interesting to watch the future minds of politicians, you know, as I interact with them in class and work group and stuff. It can be scary, and it can also be like, oh, you find some like-minded people, but then you also see some people that like, you're going to be on an interesting side of politics. I'll leave it at that, you know?
Do you feel like less and less students go to study political science, or that you need to study political science to get into politics? Because it's quite important for us younger generation to get into it. And I don't feel like a lot of us, like, it's a very clear goal to us that we really want to study political science over something else.
It's a very interesting question, because I do believe that you don't always have to be political, like in terms of what you study. Okay, no, you don't always have to study politics to be political. Like you can be political in everything that you do. But I do think it's if you want to actually truly, you start with the idea that you want to make a change from the beginning. Your best shot is through studying it, obviously, because then you're a little bit more prepared, Yeah. That's what I think. Especially because in the system that we're in right now, depending on the countries you live in, obviously, but in general, like if you want to make some decent moves politically, it's good if you know what you're talking about, because you can be a bit more efficient. If you don't know anything, then you kind of rely on other people like advisors, and you rely on these other people that know how the system works, and you just kind of get influenced by whatever it might be. That's what I think. But if you already have some knowledge for yourself, then you can better defend yourself from whatever influence someone else might be putting on you politically for you to make decisions depending on what position you're in. I mean, you always look back at great leaders, for example, and like if they didn't really know what's going on in their country, for example, King Louis in France, the wife might have made some decisions here and there, some other people, important people might have made some decisions just simply because he just didn't mind. He had the power, and so he just said, okay, well, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
How do you involve more people like our age into politics? Because one, it is, I would say, discouraging, and it's just really, really easy to get disinterested from it.
I think with young people, especially now, the best way is social media. That's the best way for people to that's the best way to inform the masses, in my opinion. Obviously, you shouldn't believe everything on social media. Always fact check everything. You have to, because there is still fake news. It's so easy to fall into the trap of believing a certain thing because this is what you're told, and you believe it comes from authority, and you believe, like, surely they know they're right. And if you just don't check these things, then sorry, you can't really find out. But the best way to involve yourself is inform yourself. Okay. Not everyone can do that for you. Fair. You have to also check with yourself and be like, okay, what do I align myself with? And then which political party that's actually going to try and enforce my beliefs? Should I vote for them? Yes or no? Like, what are the other things that they believe in? Does this impact someone else? A different minority that maybe it's not going to impact me? You always have to kind of try and balance your political affiliation. Because I think a lot of us, especially now in our sort of generation, I, for example, can't put myself like within like a stamp of what I believe in. Like, we're all so varied. We all have our different views. Some people financially, they're a bit more on the right. Other people, not so much, and all that stuff. And so I think it's just good to align yourself and find out within yourself. I'm rambling. Sorry.
Go on.
Find within yourself whatever you believe in, and find a political party that influences that as well. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's quite important to even think about this kind of thing. Like, how can I be more proactive? How can I make my voice heard?
How do you do that with the social media without being one of those
silent activist
kind of thing? Like, you share that just because it's, say, in the cycle in that moment, and then 2 weeks later it's gone.
About how you implement it in your life as well, instead of just simply sharing it.
Plus, I feel like a lot of it stems from ignorance. Like, a lot of people that are silent activists just don't know any better, and I feel like they could really benefit from
part of it.
Just informing themselves on what they're doing. What does it mean? Am I just doing this because I know what it means, or because I saw somebody else do it? You know what I mean? It's not as easy as they think it is. Like, you really have to know what you're getting into before you get into it, knowing what's right and what's wrong.
I feel like it is also kind of difficult because it stays in that cycle, and honestly, there's so much going on in the world in different parts of this planet that people tend to lose focus or just get distracted easily. Oh, here you go, another issue, and then they just...
It's I will admit, it's almost impossible to truly care about every single issue that's going on in the world. Like, for you to be actively as involved in every single issue going on, it's not that feasible. I mean, you can try, like, do little things here and there, but if you find yourself with more of a calling, let's say, to a particular thing, be it for whatever reason, but it should be a good reason. Let me clarify that quickly. Not just for you to feel good about yourself, but for you to actually realize I have the ability to make a change, and if I can improve the world that we live in, then why not? We don't always have to be selfish and think about how will I come out of this. We do have to think as a community and how will we come out of this, because we can complain about the government, but if we don't actively vote and decide to understand policies that are being enforced and like kind of see what our government is doing, then what do we really care? If you hold citizenship for whatever country, you have a say in what supposedly is supposed to go on, if your government is fair and free elections and all these things.
Yeah.
If not, then also have your say and try, and if you can, be political and change that. And so yeah.
Do you know that we're allowed to vote here as non-citizen?
Really?
Honestly, that's so great.
Not on a country basis. Like we can't vote for the prime minister, but city officials and all that.
For the people that impact your day-to-day life.
Yeah, us as internationals, we still got the right to vote here.
I like that.
It's kind of weird, but yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
But that just depends on you and how are you able to. Are you going to decide to make that decision to go out and vote? Like, I don't think it should be compulsory, because some people, if you don't know,
please don't vote.
Please don't vote.
Yeah,
like,
please
don't. Like, I know everyone always says, no matter what, you should vote.
No
way.
No.
Because, for example, in Peru, it's mandatory to vote. No matter what, you have to vote. Obviously, you would like to think that collectively people will inform themselves and they will go out and make an informed decision. But that is not true, because if you don't vote, you get a fine. Some people, they're just not involved politically, so what are they going to do? They're just going to vote for whatever. And that does not help. Like, that is a collective action problem, in my opinion.
Do you not think that people, like, raising awareness about how you should be responsible, though? Like, you matter. Your vote counts, Just also with that responsibility comes the responsibility of you informing yourself about what is right and what is wrong, and having an unbiased source to get all that from. But now that I say this, it would only make sense that you get people on the whole spectrum of political right and wrong. There isn't really a right and wrong depending on who you are.
No, it's because it's all about opinion and about what you see as right and wrong. You can't morally raise everyone the same.
Yeah.
Just how you believe that people think and how you think you're gonna think. That's what motivates people.
It's impossible.
Yeah, it's
you can't
impossible.
just have
Exactly,
one, right?
it's impossible because. But it can be what you make out of it, and that's actually a very important line of thinking that always comes back up in politics, especially when you're writing essays. Oh my god! And so yeah.
100%.
So you just kind of have to hope that people are gonna do the right thing. It's very important to inform yourself, and I think for the youth, like that, people struggle because we don't see ourselves in politics. But at the same time, it's good to. You should have experience if you're entering into these things somewhat, like the more like higher level stuff. But I think we just need to see more young people actively involving themselves in stuff where they're eligible, because then that's how you really get people kind of in the system. That's what we're struggling with. We're struggling with getting a lot of younger people interested in being in the system. We've always kind of seen it as, well, it's other people's kind of job for this. It's like other people that's doing this. But I mean, AOC, for example, she's had a huge impact. She's been, I think she was the youngest woman in Congress, I think. I can't remember right now. But, seeing that has really changed a lot. Having her voice, especially a Latin woman, it says something. And I think that's...
You think it's a step?
I think it's a huge step.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you've got people, like, for example, I study this, so I see the people that actually are pushed to make this change. I, for example, see myself as someone that wants to go, and no matter what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to enter into some sort of political scene in Peru. That's my plan. I'm just going to go and do something, try and do it in any way. I might not be the one to bring the biggest change, but if I can do something that impacts someone else, that might take them further along the journey, the political, transformation or political whatever, then why not? I have to do my part. And that's at least what I think.
You guys hear it first. This is Samantha's running.
No.
This is a running statement, and for in the future.
That's what they put in the
we support
video,
Oh my god,
She's been talking about this for a minute.
A nice hot minute.
Do you think that you want to go back to Peru and pursue all these political positions because you have this responsibility to take back what you know now and feed it back where you came from? Is it more about where you came from, or more about just because Peru really needs it?
I think for me it's more just about giving back to what has been given. And so this, it sounds a bit spiritual, so what has been divinely blessed for me, and what has been worked so hard for up until this point, that I am able to live at this state of luxury. It's a little bit personal, I admit, because, for example, my mom, she is from Peru. She's from a very poor part of Peru, Tingo Maria, which is in kind of the jungle area. They had a lot of issues going on, you know. Basically, she had a very hard life growing up, but somehow she managed to get out. She moved to Botswana. Fun, so to say. But she made her coin, and now I'm here, one of my only cousins, studying in Europe, and you know, everyone else is still in Peru. Like, most of my family is still in Peru, and they're just not able to leave and have, you know, better opportunities. So I just feel like, well, my mom managed to make it this far, and while yes, maybe I can now go on and like live a life of higher status, so to say, or like, you know, higher, more privilege. But I personally just feel this calling that, like, you know what, why is it me that has to be the lucky one out of all my siblings? Like, they could just as well deserve this. It's not because that they were not working as hard as my mom, they're not working or just whatever. It's just luck. That's what I believe. I believe it's just pure luck that, obviously my mom worked hard, yes, but to get out of that cycle is so hard. And so the luck that she had, you know, to actually leave was too much in my, well, not too much, like it was very good and it was great. And I just feel like I need to repay that and go back. And if I can fix it, and might as well try to do it, to make something better so that not as many people will leave. Because I believe that too many people are leaving these countries like Peru and many global south countries. We're leaving and going and looking for better things, but we're not always trying to, like, it's we should be able to come back and try and fix things there so that less people have incentive to leave and actually build our countries up. I know it's hard, and obviously, yeah, do what you want, it doesn't matter. But I do think if you do feel a political motivation, try and push it towards something that, if you want to make a change, then go ahead and make that change. You have the ability to do that if you really set your mind to it.
What is stopping people there? Is there anything stopping people there from learning about it and wanting to fix it themselves?
I think the biggest thing I can say is that, as with most global South countries, communities in general, it's corruption. Yeah. It's a lot of corruption.
Can you elaborate on what global South countries are?
Oh, okay. So global South, essentially, not always entirely, but a short way to put it is just think about it. Of the global North, it's Europe, the US, low-key Russia. Russia's a brick country, you know? Yeah. But it's mostly, if you think about it, the Northern Hemisphere countries seem to be doing quite a bit better than the Southern Hemisphere. Australia is a bit different, you know? But they're not considered a global South. Yeah. You know? Global South is countries like Botswana, for example, Southern Africa in general, as, you know, part of the continent. Africa is global South. South America, global South. Would Central America, the
Middle East be considered? Or like
that's a good question. It depends. I personally am not sure, because we don't have some. Yeah, it depends. Asia, there is a lot.
Southeast Asia, not including Singapore.
Yeah, of course, not including exactly. If you go to, for example, Philippines, even Indonesia, of course, is considered global South. Yeah. But yeah, global South is mostly, in my opinion, where the disparity between, you know, the pretty rich and like the actual, like, okay, like the decent and what is it called? No, the income gap. That is where it's like pretty large. You know, that's more global South countries. And also, in my opinion, global South countries are those that have been exploited by the global North. Yeah, 100%. That's my view on it. But yeah, so the issue with the global South, well, for example, Peru, as you asked me, I think it's corruption mostly. Because also democracy it's new, because it all depends on how a country's sort of historical history explains a lot about how its politics work now, you know? And Europe just has had a little bit more practice doing these things. But anyway, the issue in Peru, corruption and lack of education. Okay. That's what I think. Because if your country is corrupt and people are just stealing all the money, you know, putting it in their pockets, where's the funding going to go for like communities? Where's the education funding going to go and the healthcare funding going to go? Nowhere. For example, Peru has spent almost, I think, all of the money that they had in reserve because of the pandemic. They spent all of it, and now we have zero reserves. What's going to happen? We're going to have to take out a loan from the IMF. What's going to impact that? Now, the IMF, fun fact, that they give out loans on the base of a Washington consensus thing, which is basically where you have to implement neoliberal policies. So policies that kind of low-key suit the global north better. And you have to implement those policies in order to receive some loans. You know, like obviously you don't, IMF isn't just going to give you money like, here's money, fix your issues. You know, we actually want to help you. No, there's always something else tied because it's politics.
Yeah.
And so that's a interesting discussion anyway. That was a little tangent on Peru and where they might go, maybe, depending on the decisions now. But no, I think the lack of education keeps a lot of people in poverty as well. Because lack of opportunities in poverty, if you don't have access to education, then, well, how are you going to inform yourself about politics? How are you going to inform yourself about what your country's doing? And if the political party that you're voting for is actually going to help you or not. If you're not educated, then, well, you're not going to be able to do that. What also stops people from getting education? Healthcare. Some people are sick, you know, they need these things, or like family members get sick, they have to drop out and they have to take care of their families and all these things. I think that it's important. Like the main blockages in Peru is having a good system of education, like public education, and a good public healthcare. I think that's what's blocking a lot of global south countries from truly reaching their fullest potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we were to go down to the core of what really is stopping everyone from developing just as much as the West did in the global North, it's because we don't have the infrastructure to carry our people further, you know?
Yeah.
If our people are behind, then the wealth stays concentrated in a certain area and only those that have access to it and have access to these opportunities. But if you don't have this access, then you're stuck. So
Right.
I think the main issues, if we were to just talk about it in just building blocks, healthcare and education. Corruption at the source of why you're not able to access these things.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, do you feel like it's because of corruption that you can't really get a good foot into politics? Because we know in some countries there's this danger of literally being assassinated.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so would Peru have some of these dangers, or is it more about like outsmarting the other?
Well, I'll admit my political knowledge on Peru is still deepening because I don't have as much experience there, haven't lived there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But also to my own privilege, anyway. So this is just my personal opinion, but I do need to research more. But I do think it's about corruption and knowing the right people kind of thing.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay.
It's hard to get into that because everybody knows each other. And so everybody's like, oh, like, I'm going to let you, you know, run this. And I'm going to help you with this policy because, like, I know you. You know, it's a lot of nepotism. That's what I think.
Okay.
Personally, and just people coming together and going against everyone else. But I wouldn't say it's like about assassination. At least I'm not going to make these statements and assumptions. I am unsure.
I'll have to think about that.
I'd have to think about that. I do have beliefs for other countries, but I will not be saying that.
Okay.
So we're just gonna go to fan questions now.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm
Sure.
down.
So if you guys have any questions that we'll just
We're talking to you guys.
to the listeners, by the way, sorry. If you guys want to send any questions to us that we want to touch on the podcast, or you just want to listen to people read your questions on air, that's
Maybe just like an ego boost. Look,
low-key.
my name is somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
That could work too.
A little name drop.
Yeah. Shout out.
You can
Yeah.
send your questions on our Insta, our Twitter. You can email us if you want.
Oh,
If you want.
If you
fax us, probably.
Actually, you know what? Please email us.
Maybe
I want to
through
see.
microwave as well if you try hard enough.
We're running kind of long, so we're just gonna do one right now. This question's from Nina McIntyre. What's your favorite thing to do in Amsterdam?
good question.
What about you, Hani?
Probably, I would say it happens when I don't really plan on it happening. It's mainly when I have my camera on me. My favorite thing to do is just being in a random place that I don't plan on being at and just shooting, you know, just walking around.
Wow.
Like, say I'm coming back from somewhere, you know, I just take away like 30 minutes, put that on the side and just walk around, listen to music, and just shoot things that just take photographs. Things that I find stimulate me.
It's a nice city
It
to
is a
be in
beautiful
when
city.
you're a photography
It's a
hoe.
beautiful
It is.
city.
All the
100%.
canals, the trees.
Yeah.
Many different like subjects as well, like so many different
So many
people,
different- yeah.
you know. And I'm working on this thing at the moment called the people of the boats with people of the canals.
Ooh, that's nice.
So I've been working on this for a minute. It's kind of at a halt now because of Corona. But I just take pictures of people.
Like sewer people?
No. Like people on their boats, grilling, having a nice time. Some people tanning, some raves every now
Maybe
and
a
then.
sewer
Like
person
a
here or
4-person rave. It's very interesting. You see these beautiful like wooden boats, and you see these like gold trim. Like you see also the disparity between
Oh.
Ooh.
very high end boats and very low end boats, and the kind of people. And it's very interesting. Like you get sunny days with like just it's cartoonish almost. Like some of the people you see on these boats, it's almost like a cartoon. You don't believe
In general, what you see in Amsterdam
Very
is
true.
pretty interesting. I once saw a girl, I was looking out the window, and she had a chicken in a basket. And she was just feeding it, like bread or something. I don't know what she was feeding it. But she was just sitting there with the canal, with somebody, and her little chicken, just looking at the water. And then eventually they stood up and left. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Nice.
not real. Genuinely, it's not real.
I've seen a couple dead bodies.
Oh,
in the city.
shit. Our friend Remy suggested we add a horror segment, just talk about like
talk
some
about stories, folklore stories, little horror
exactly.
stories.
Well,
Sounds
like
pretty
personal
interesting.
experiences with the supernatural,
Ooh.
if you believe in it. I personally don't, but I have some moments where I was like, maybe I do believe in it,
I have some good Indonesian ghost stories.
I believe you.
I've got
I
a few
believe
things
you.
here and there.
Going back to the topic though, what's your favorite thing to do since you don't live in Amsterdam?
To be honest, I didn't spend much time in Amsterdam like pre-COVID, to be honest. So I can't say anything before Corona with much certainty. But I will admit, going on walks in Amsterdam is really nice, just in general. Kind of parallel to what you said, but yours involves a camera. Mine is just roaming around and doing things. But yeah, no, it's very nice sometimes, even just by yourself, to just take a walk during the day. Obviously, at night, no. Definitely not.
Sketchy at night.
Yeah.
Depending on the
Sometimes.
area.
Depending on the area.
Depending on where you are, but that applies to no matter where you are.
True.
And so,
What's your favorite thing?
Well, speaking of boats earlier,
Okay.
one of my favorite things would be just to go on a boat.
Shout out Amir.
Shout out Amir. We like to go on boats because basically you throw a picnic on the boat. It's nice out, 28 degrees.
You're on the water.
You're on the water. You got some cold orange juice. You got some prosecco, and you just roam around for 3 hours with no direction.
Nice.
Well, that was a pretty good first episode.
I feel like it was quite solid.
It was good. I'm glad to have been on it. Very interesting.
Appreciate that.
I
Sam.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming. Thank you. It was very, very nice topics we discussed. I feel like.
First official episode.
Yeah.
I'm
Very
glad
good.
to have been on it.
Yeah. Well, we only have 24 hours in a day, and we don't want to take up too much of your time.
And I'm sorry as well if we didn't get to your questions. I want to give a shout out to one of our friends for letting us use this apartment to record. This is our new studio location. Maybe. Possibly. And you guys can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Pocket Cast. Oh, sorry, I'm at Apple Podcasts, not Apple Music.
Okay.
And follow our socials.
Send us questions as well. Topics, things we should discuss, feedback. Always welcome.
Please.
Yeah. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.